Hello, my name is Donathan Coates, and this is my final presentation for Careers in Adult Development and Aging. For this interview, I wanted to speak with somebody who has been very impactful in my community and I've been able to develop a personal relationship with. I had the pleasure of speaking with Margaret Lopez, who is a 75-year-old woman and still hardworking. She works every day. Um, she works at the only senior center here in my town, and that I feel like that has allowed her to develop many meaningful relationships with other elderly individuals. Um, she's been working at the senior center for almost a decade, being there 8 years. So let's talk about Margaret's day-to-day work. There are many multiple tasks that need to be done at a senior center, and Margaret helps with many. Um, One of the things that she does every day is take meals to people. She helps with the Meals on Wheels program. She mentioned that she delivers around 30 meals a day and usually picks up around 10 people, which is around 40 stops a day, which is a lot. She believes that delivering meals is one of the most important tasks of her job because many people rely on their meals to eat. This goes along with information from the textbook discussing the importance of our meal programs. And people are drawn to senior centers because of their meal program and their health maintenance services. And if it wasn't for the county meal services, I probably wouldn't be able to get food. Um, Another thing that she does is she assists the staff in planning and hosting events and parties for the elderly. I know they've done New Year's parties, they've done Christmas parties, Easter, they've done dances, just kind of a lot of events and stuff to keep the elderly socialized. Um, Even though there's a lot to be done and there's not a lot of time that she gets to have free to herself, whenever she does, she mentioned that one of the favorite things that she gets to do is whenever there's music playing, she'll go and grab a few of her elderly people and she'll dance with them, kind of brighten their day. Margaret also mentioned that there was no education requirement that was needed for her position, and she was thankful for that. Um, Margaret got pregnant with her son or her daughter whenever she was very young, and a few years after, she got pregnant with her son. And that didn't allow her to go to college because she was busy. She was a single mom, and she was trying to maintain her family. She works part time, so only about 4 hours a day, making $13 an hour, so roughly $450 every 2 weeks. This isn't too much of an issue for her because, due to her age, she also receives a Social Security check. But she doesn't care too much about the pay. She really enjoys her work. It's a way for her to get out too. She stated the pay isn't great, but I don't do it for the money. I enjoy spending time with my elderly people and getting to help them because a lot of them don't have anybody. Her biggest motivating factor that kept her working this long is just wanting to help other elderly people until she no longer can. She has a great heart, and I believe that a lot of the people that she cares for really appreciate her for that. And there are many different ways that they offer support at the senior center. Margaret states for physical support that she helps people in and out of the van because she has to drop people off at the senior center and pick them up from their houses. So if they have any things that they need to help them walk, such as a wheelchair or a cane, she'll load that into the van and unload it and help them walk around at the senior center. A lot of the people have difficulties walking around, so it's important to keep a close eye on them to ensure their safety. A big part of the job that Margaret felt was really important was the emotional support aspect of her job. She mentioned that there's a lot of people who are lonely and don't really have anybody else to talk to at home, so she likes to be one that people feel that they can talk to. She does her best to comfort them whenever she can and give them advice and cheer them up before she goes on about her day. She stated, if one of them is crying or whatever, I'll give them a tissue and give them advice. And then we'll start doing something silly. Either I'll dance with them or I'll make a joke. Um, a quote from our textbook stated that listening to each other's problems and enjoying each other's company can reduce loneliness and depression. So it is very important. Although there are a lot of good things about working at the senior center, getting to have meaningful relationships with your elderly and have fun with them, there are also a lot of stressful aspects of the job as well. When I asked Margaret about what her most favorite part of the job was, she mentioned that she loves whenever her elderly are doing good, they're not ill, they're not sad from being lonely, and they get to interact and develop meaningful connections with them. The job goes beyond just doing tasks to care for someone physically, but it's important to actually gain a connection with them to make sure that they're being adequately cared for. Um, She stated that the most stressful part of her job is dealing with loss of the individuals that she works with. Since they're elderly, it's not uncommon for them to pass away. She talked about how hard it was to develop a relationship with someone and see them every day, and then they pass away. But not only just losing them is hard, but also seeing the process before they pass, whether that's dealing with sickness in and out of the hospitals and stuff like that, just watching their health slowly deteriorate. Um, she said that she's able to cope with the pain and stress just knowing that they're in a better place. Asked about advice to anybody she would give working her job, she kept it short and simple. She stated that it's very important to have a desire to care and work with the elderly and not just doing it for the paycheck because it doesn't pay that much to begin with. You need to have a need for patience, and if you don't, you need to learn quick because the work can be very challenging. Also, the work that you do can vary, so it's important to adapt and go with the flow. The last thing that she shared with us is that she loves her job and the people she works with. She loves her elderly, and she looks forward to seeing them every day and starting her day. Senior centers are of great importance in our communities because they offer multiple forms of support. Studies show that people who attend senior centers do find them to be beneficial and help them have better lives. In a study published by Kay Turner, they surveyed 856 people from 27 different senior centers, and in this study they found out that 87% of people who had signed up for the meal program did it partly for the socialization aspect that comes with it. 56% of the people also reported that socializing at the senior center was the only socialization that they got throughout the day because they don't have anybody else there at home. 90% of the people said that the relationships they developed there at the senior center are meaningful to them. This just goes to show how support at the community centers have been beneficial to the elderly individuals. Personally, for me, the most surprising thing that I learned after this interview was how hard this job can be, not only physically but emotionally as well. I knew that working with the elderly could be very challenging because there's a lot of things that I wouldn't know how to do and how to properly care for the elderly. But one big thing that I forgot to take into consideration was death. Um, I believe that the hardest thing to do personally is deal with death, and I'm not very good at dealing with it. So I don't think that this job would be good for me. I also think that knowing that the elderly, the people you're working with, are going to pass would make it harder for me to develop meaningful relationships with them because I would be afraid of getting too hurt whenever they do pass. Interviewing Miss Lopez has opened my eyes to how much senior centers actually make a difference in my community. I didn't realize how many elderly individuals don't receive adequate care or how many elderly individuals were signed up to go to the senior centers. For many, the Meals on Wheels is something that they rely on or they won't eat. Um, I also realized how taxing this job can be on a worker. Dealing with loss can be tough and can affect you mentally and physically. It's important to have good coping skills if you're going to work at this job. Um, Overall, I feel like this interview made me appreciate people who do work with the elderly a little bit more because I never took into consideration how difficult the job could be. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for sitting with me.